Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. It is New Year's Day here in Tulsa, America. And I just thought this morning that I would hop on here with my coffee and in my PJs and by my cozy fire and just chat with you guys for a little bit, let you know where I've been and what we've been up to. And I also just kind of wanted to give you a recap of my year and maybe even give you a little short version of my whole weight loss story, because I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are coming to the channel probably in the next few weeks for weight loss content, and some of you who are already here for that who may or may not know how I got to where I am and what my story is where that's concerned. So let's get started. Okay, first off, Christmas was great. Christmas Eve, my husband and I worked 4 services. Christmas Day, we hosted Christmas here with our children and my husband's parents. And the next day, we got in the car and went to see my parents about 2 hours away and my family there. And then a couple days after that, we hopped on the train and went down to Dallas for a couple of nights to do some fun things with the kids. On the 30th, we came back and my husband and I left the children with the grandparents for a couple days. He and I came back and we are enjoying just a few days of just kind of catching our breath, getting a little rest, getting some good sleep, getting Christmas decorations taken down, some easy days, kind of getting back into the swing of things and getting ready to get back into a regular routine in January. So the last time that I weighed in 2019 was actually Christmas Eve. And I had shared with you guys a few days before in a what I eat in a day video that I was kind of having a little bit of trouble going into the last week of Christmas. I'd done really well until then. I had been doing my run streak, which I did complete, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I had been really choosing my indulgences wisely and just trying to be mindful of all of the opportunities to indulge throughout Christmas and only choose the ones that I was really interested in, that I really wanted. And for some reason, I just hit a wall going into Christmas. Maybe it was stress, maybe it was hormones. I don't know, I just struggled. But instead of throwing in the towel and saying, man, I'm just gonna eat whatever I want and drink whatever I want and do whatever I want and I'll worry about it in January, like I've done in years past, I decided no. Even just having 3 or 4 really good days leading up to Christmas is going to help me in the long run. So that's what I did. And on Christmas Eve, I stepped on the scale. I was even. I was exactly the same as my previous weigh-in, which was 147.8. And I was very, very, very happy with that, because that was pretty much my goal throughout the Christmas season, was just to maintain or to only see a little small gain. I did complete my Christmas run streak. I committed at the beginning of the season to jog at least 1 mile every day between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was 27 days total of running, and I jogged over 61 miles. I was very pleased with that. I think last year I jogged over 45 miles, so it was a big increase from last year. And I know that my longest distances were longer than my long distances last year, which was the first time that I did this. In fact, I had this goal kind of in the back of my head. I didn't really commit to it, but I was just sort of hoping that it would be something I could accomplish, of jogging a 10K, the equivalent of a 10K, not like an actual race, but just the equivalent of a 10K, which is 6.2 miles, before Christmas Eve, and I was able to do that. I accomplished that on Saturday, the 21st. I'm very pleased with my Christmas run streak. I actually do plan to continue jogging. I have printed out a half marathon training schedule, but before I do that, I've got a little bit of a calf strain, and I know that I need to do some strength training and maybe some yoga. I'm really scared to try yoga because I know that I need it. People have suggested it for years, yoga or Pilates. I'm horribly inflexible. My core is very weak. I know those classes would do me good, but I'm gonna be like the embarrassment in those classes. You may be wondering, since you were home, Mindy, why didn't you step on the scale yesterday and get a weigh-in the very last day of 2019? The reason I did not do that is because yesterday was our first day home from vacation. Some people do really well jumping on the scale right after vacation and seeing, that the scale has gone up, and it just kind of gives them that kick in the booty they need to get back in gear. For me, it works the opposite way. It makes me feel really defeated, and it makes me feel like I just want to keep spiraling downward. It makes it really hard for me to recommit. Whereas if I take a few days to just recommit without seeing the number on the scale and eat within my points and get back to eating and drinking and exercising the way I was before I left for vacation, if I have a few of those really good days under my belt and then I step on the scale, I'm much more likely to stick with it and follow through. Not to mention the fact that for me, I know in the back of my mind that some of that extra weight on the scale is my body still holding on to water and salt and sugar and kind of being in chaos mode from not being in my regular routine with eating and exercise. So just giving my body a couple of days to readjust and letting it know, hey, I'm going back to doing what I normally do. Lots of times that's enough to allow some of that additional water weight to come off. And then the scale, is a little kinder to me in a couple of days. So by the way, there is going to be a huge collab going up on Monday, January 6th. It's a big WW collab. You are not going to want to miss it. There's going to be a ton of channels participating in this. So be sure to watch for that. If you're subscribed to me, you're probably subscribed to some of these other channels, but there are some new ones also that are participating. So be sure to check in on Monday for that collab. When I started my channel about a year and a half ago, I really wanted to fill this niche of having a channel that was more about maintenance. I had lost the weight, and here's what it's like trying to maintain it, and just kind of going through the ins and outs and ups and downs and wins and fails of the maintenance world, because maintenance is really, really difficult. I know that sounds cliche, and lots of people, when we're in the weight loss journey, we're in weight loss mode, we're like, oh yeah, maintenance people over there complaining about how hard it is, and boy, I'd really love to be in their seat. And then whenever people get there, they're like, oh my gosh, you were right. Because you have to kind of flip your mindset from seeing the scale go down to being okay seeing it stay the same, or even go up and then down a little bit and up and then down a little bit. That's kind of what maintenance looks like. It's more of a range than it is a specific number. That's something I've really had to learn and accept for my own mental peace. I also am a person who has technically never been obese. For most of my adult life, I have been in the overweight category, which made it very difficult for me to lose the weight for lots of reasons. Some of it was just my own self making excuses and being like, well, 1/3 of the country is obese. I should really be grateful that I'm only overweight, that I'm only 20 pounds outside of my recommended range. A lot of people would love to be in my shoes, and just kind of justifying it that way for so many years. Also, I just feel like that's a really difficult place to be and lose weight, because our bodies really want to hang on to it. They consider it insurance, right? So I also felt like I had something valuable and different to share, because I wasn't a person who has lost 100 pounds or 75 pounds or 50 pounds, those really radical transformations that are so inspiring to us. I'm this person who had about 25 pounds to lose and took her time losing it. And I just felt like I could share my story and be an inspiration to people who are in that same boat, or people who had reached that point from a longer weight loss journey and needed, a new perspective or a different perspective on it. Hopefully that makes sense. So long story longer, I was various degrees of overweight most of my adult life. There were a few times here and there where I would get it in check, especially one time when I was a Weight Watchers member, and back in 2012 when it was the Points Plus plan, and I managed to get it in check, and then I pretty much immediately got pregnant and had another baby, and I was right back to where I was before, being about 15 to 20 pounds overweight. Finally, in December of 2016, it reached this point where I had that moment where I looked at a picture of myself and almost didn't recognize me. I had reached a point where I was in a different size of clothing, where some of my clothes that had fit for years were not fitting anymore, where I could see the weight in my face. My face was really puffy, and I just didn't like the way I felt. I was tired a lot of the time. I knew I was out of shape. I knew that I was unhappy, and that it was just time to try to get it in check once and for all. So even though it was December and the holidays were coming, I started to just try to make a few small changes, go for some walks again, watch my portion sizes, try to limit indulgences like alcohol and sweets and treats and stuff. And I was able to see the scale go down about 10 pounds. Now, when I started in December of 2016, I didn't even want to step on the scale my first day. I waited a few days to weigh in, and I remember that number was 169.8. I was probably over 170 pounds when I started. I am 5'5", so that is about 20 pounds over the very top of my recommended weight range. Now, 20 pounds may not seem like a lot, but when I pick up a 10-pound sack of potatoes at the grocery store and I think, man, I used to carry around 2 extras of these on my body, it's a big deal, okay? So don't let anybody tell you that it isn't. When you lose 5 pounds or you lose 10 pounds, I think it makes a difference on our bodies. So anyway, December of 2016, I kind of recommitted to lose the weight. March of 2017, I rejoined Weight Watchers. It was the smart Smart Points plan, I reached my goal weight of 145 technically after maintenance and everything in January of 2018. And I actually was able to mostly maintain that for a little over a year. Last spring, some of you who are with me know this, I just kind of hit a mental roadblock and I needed to take a step back from diet culture in general. And so I just took a break from it mentally. And when I came back, I did a lot of research into metabolic adaptation, which is this idea that our bodies, will adjust our metabolism to our food intake, and that times of restriction can actually cause our metabolism to lower some. And that's why sometimes we plateau, or sometimes diets will wreak havoc on our metabolism. So I really focused on a different kind of exercise, to putting some strength training into my routine, and also into just eating a little bit more to get my metabolism revved back up. And I gained a few pounds during that time, but I really felt pretty good. Unfortunately, life happened and we had a really stressful summer, and I had surgery. I had a hysterectomy at the beginning of the summer, kind of towards the end of June. And when I came out of that, I was close to 160 pounds. I remember weighing in at the doctor and seeing 159 something. And granted, it was the doctor's office. I was fully clothed and wearing shoes and carrying my purse and all that kind of stuff. But when I stepped on the scale a couple weeks later, kind of mid-July, I was on my home scale when I normally weigh in early in the morning, wearing what I normally wear to weigh in. I was, I think, 156.4 or something, somewhere in there. And so I knew that I had put on some actual weight. I could see it in my face. I could feel it in the way my clothes were fitting. And I just recommitted then to very slowly start to try to take the weight off. So over the course of several months, I was counting calories at the time. I was able to take off about 7 or 8 pounds and starting to feel a little better. November rolled around and Weight Watchers rolled out their new Myww program. And that was basically where they were going to combine what had been Smart Points, what had been Freestyle, and a new program that was very intriguing to me, the Myww Purple program. So on the Myww Purple plan, there is a 0 points foods list that includes fruits and vegetables, some protein sources like fat-free Greek yogurt and chicken and turkey breast, beans, and lots of whole grain options like brown rice and whole wheat pasta and oatmeal, things like that. So those things are worth 0 points. And then my daily points that I get in addition to those 0 point foods are 16 points. And then I get 35 weekly points to play around with. And I knew that only quote unquote having 16 daily points would really encourage me to use those points for like good fats and for cheese and dairy and things like that, because I probably wouldn't want to spend like 8 points on half a cup of ice cream. That's half my daily points. I'd be thinking, okay, what can I actually eat with those points that's going to do my body good? In addition, I just really miss the community of WW. I think that there's a great online community. There's a great YouTube community. I really missed having this sense of camaraderie and these people who are working this program with me. I feel like you're never alone when you're working Myww, or if you are, there are lots of places you can reach out for help or just for people to listen to people who will listen to you and just get kind of the encouragement that you need. Now, when I was a Myww member before, I was a meetings member, and I do plan to go back to the meetings. Right now, I'm just using the e-tools online, but in January, I do plan to go back to the meetings. I think it is a very valuable tool to not only check in once a week with somebody where you need to step on the scale and be accountable for your week in front of somebody, just one person, but in front of somebody, and have them jot it down in your book. But I also like the idea of being with people who often understand what we're going through, who give us good ideas, who give us encouragement. So if you are thinking about joining Myww, I highly recommend the meetings. I know it's not for everybody. Some people, you just really have to decide what works for you. But if you're on the fence about it, I would encourage you to give it a try and even try a few different meetings. You might be surprised kind of the family and the camaraderie that you find there, and how much it really helps you stay accountable and how much it encourages you on your weight loss path. As always, I would love to hear from you guys. I read all of your comments. Feel free to leave me one below. If you want to share with me something great that happened to you through your holiday season, or if you just want to share a really great goal that you're excited about going into the new year, I would love to hear about it. And I'll check in with you guys very soon. Bye.